let's do a little mini episode of Spooky Pasta Sauce.
Ooh, okay.
If you're not spooked enough
Ooh.
already.
You warmed me up. You warmed me up with the scary fairy fairy vampires.
Oh, how about some Disney urban legends for you? So I think we've all heard the classic, nobody dies at Disney. They they supposedly have policies in place that if that were to happen, paramedics are instructed to use any and all life-saving measures until the guest is removed from the park, and then they are allowed to be declared dead.
What?
So that they can keep saying, like, nobody has ever died at Disney. Because if you, like, look it up, there's no, like, concrete reported deaths. Yeah, so you can't let them die until you get them out of the park.
Wow. Did not know that.
And honestly, like, I'm not so sure how true that is, but it is the biggest one that goes around when people talk about Disney lore and legends and stuff.
Yeah.
That, like, you have to actually be removed from the park. And then even there's other things that go along with that, like, if stuff happens, like, to a guest or whatever, they kind of low-key try and, like, blame it on, like, an underlying health condition that they had, or they try and blame it on the guest. Like, either they were being reckless and, like, not following the rules, or they had this pre-existing health condition that they didn't know about, and then they went on one of our rides and had a heart attack, and it's not our fault because they had this pre-existing condition. They just didn't know.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah, nobody dies at Disney. But, Walt Disney himself, he had an apartment at Disneyland, and it was like it was overlooking Main Street, I'm pretty sure. And it's just like the upstairs of one of the many, like, shops and bakeries and things that, like, line Main Street as you're walking into the parks and stuff. So apparently the story goes that, like, when Walt Disney was alive, he and his family would stay there all of the time. Like, that was one of their favorite things to do, favorite places. And they would sit at this one particular window and just do a bunch of people watching. Like,
that's my kind of vacation,
right? Or, like, if you're the owner of the park, absolutely, I want to do that. But, like, there were rumors that they would even go as far as to, like, listen in to what people were saying about the parks so that they could kind of, like, be in the know of how the customers felt about Disneyland, in case they needed to, like, make improvements or things like that. Like, they would just eavesdrop on people and, like, spy on guests from their apartment. But since Walt Disney has died, they have had, like, frequent paranormal experiences in the apartment, and people think that it is, like, Walt Disney coming back to a place he liked to spend time a lot and just, like, hanging out. Also, I'm sure there's probably, like, I would imagine that as a ghost, you have to have, like, a lot of ties to a place in your real life before you can, like, haunt it as a ghost, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, that's why they haunt their own houses and stuff. Like, it has to be, like, somewhere you spend a lot of time. I feel like it's an energy thing.
That's why there's so many toilet ghosts. I'm starting to understand now.
I feel like it's got to be like an energy thing,
Yeah.
you know, because they all say like, oh, like if it's a super traumatic experience, like a person could, like their ghost could be tied or whatever. But to like pick a place to haunt, I feel like you have to have spent a lot of time there in your living life. Or I feel like it's that, or you can follow somebody around that you know, but like for locations, those are about your only options as a ghost. In my opinion. My theories over here about ghosts and paranormal things. But so they think he, like a lot of people have kind of like felt a presence or whatever, and then there was a light in front of that window where he used to spend all of his time people watching. And he would always turn it on, like his ghost would turn it on, and like it was such a recurring problem, and like they got so tired of like having to go and like turn it off and stuff that they literally now are just leaning so hard into, yes, this is Walt Disney's ghost, and they just leave the light on all the time.
I think we're not even trying anymore.
Right?
It's
And that
haunted.
was what somebody said. They were like, maybe they just stopped trying to turn it off again. And he literally just keeps coming in and turning it on.
Wow. Who knew? I did not know that Disneyland was haunted.
Ooh. And that's
All
not
the
the
more reason to
only.
go.
That's not the only ghost at Disneyland. This might be my favorite Disney urban legend.
Ooh.
George the Ghost.
Okay.
Supposedly, George the Ghost haunts the Pirates of the Caribbean ride.
I was expecting that. Sorry. Okay, keep
No,
going.
you're good. Yeah, his name is George, and he haunts the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Oh, it's in Florida. This one's in Florida. He haunts the Pirates of the Caribbean ride in the Magic Kingdom. And so they thought that George was supposedly the ghost of a former park employee who died on duty while installing Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, wow.
But there is no record of George's living existence. Like they couldn't find like a real person on a crew or on the Disney cast. Like, there's no like real person to point to. George may not be a real person, but George is the name of the ghost in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. And if cast members don't say hi to him in the morning and goodbye to him at night, he's been reported to cause malfunctions in the ride.
What?
Yeah, so
What? George?
He's a lonely ghost. You have to say good morning and goodbye.
Oh my goodness.
Or he's a very territorial ghost and would like you to respect the fact that you are hanging out in his house.
Yeah, hanging out on his Pirates of the Caribbean ride.
Yeah, it's definitely his. Also, another common rumor about Pirates of the Caribbean, and this one is in Disneyland, not at the Magic Kingdom, is that back in the day, to cut costs and stuff, because the special effects at the time were not up to the Mickey Mouse standards. Fake skeletons in the 60s just weren't gonna cut it.
Oh my god.
So
what is she gonna say?
There's a rumor that they had one of the medical schools in California donate real skeletons to Disneyland for them to put in the ride. And so everybody's like, OMG, there's real bones in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. But of course, they removed them all. Obviously. Special effects got better, and they were like, oh, okay, it's probably not a good idea to keep these real ass skeletons in this amusement park ride. So they took out the took out the skeletons, and there is rumor, though, that there is one real, genuine skull left in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride.
Oh. Ooh, spooky.
Yes.
I can't believe that. Wow.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not
Okay.
scary enough. We need the real thing.
Now, the Haunted Mansion. There is not a rumor that this one is haunted, so you're
Mhm.
good there. This one just has two really funny stories attached to it, I think. Three that I can tell you actually. So the first one is that people frequently bring their loved ones' ashes to Disneyland with the
What?
intentions of dumping them on the Haunted Mansion ride.
Like that's the ride that goes up to the top and then drops, right?
No, that's the Tower of Terror.
Oh, stop
The-
care. Okay, what is the Haunted Mansion ride then?
That one, it's just like you go through the house and it's literally like the Disney movie with Eddie Murphy.
Okay, yeah.
Except that Eddie Murphy is not at all a part of the ride.
Okay.
That was just for the movie.
Yeah,
They
just
took
the
all of
movie.
the elements of the ride and then said, let's just send Eddie Murphy. But so the ghosts, like the busts and stuff,
Yeah.
like the headless
Yeah.
singing ghosts and all of that, like that's all in the Haunted Mansion
Mhm.
ride. And then that's also the one where at Christmas / Halloween they do it like Nightmare Before Christmas themed as well.
Yes, yeah. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Snaggle.
Pretty sure you cried at the Haunted Mansion ride.
I love that. Oh my god.
Well, apparently
I would probably cry too.
apparently everyone else just wants to come
Mm-hmm.
and spread their loved ones' ashes there.
Like as the ride is going, they're dumping the ashes, or like they're putting the
Yeah,
urn
like
in.
while they're
Oh
on
my
the
God.
ride, they like bring some of the ashes to like sprinkle on the ride, like as they're going through. And this one is not a myth. People do this, and they do it so frequently that the cast members, the park employees, even have a special code for when this happens and a special policy for like when they have to come in and clean up. So don't do it. They come in and clean up your loved one's ashes. It's not like they
Yeah.
stay on the Haunted Mansion ride. But they've been known to have all sorts of like weird funny codes, you know, to keep
Yeah.
the magic alive, so that you don't hear a cast member on a radio being like, some kid barfed on the teacups again.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have a special code for when people spread ashes in the Haunted Mansion ride.
God. Yeah.
And then these next two rumors about the Haunted Mansion ride are very similar, and one of them I was already aware of, and the other one I just learned today, which is super funny. The first one is that, so you know, it's like the Haunted Mansion movie, including the like fortune teller and everything, and there was a rumor for a while that the spell book that they had in the Haunted Mansion ride was like a genuine witch's grimoire, like a real dark old spooky spell book that you probably shouldn't just be like super willy-nilly with.
Did they not
and
learn from Hocus Pocus?
I don't think so. But also a part of that is that like, oh, and it's since now like been removed and blah 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 and replaced with a prop.
Yeah.
With this one, I had no idea, and it is so super funny. So there's a myth that the like horse-drawn hearse carriage that's out in front of the Haunted Mansion, there's a rumor that it is actually the same hearse that carried Brigham Young to his burial after he died in 1877.
What?
Which I think is so funny. Like, why would Walt Disney buy
Yeah.
a hearse knowing like okay, I get it. If you were going for all these historical like objects
Mhm.
and genuine props for your rides, like the spell book, but like
Need
the
help?
Mormons. And so, okay, it's absolutely not true. According to the director of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Museum of Church and Art, Church History and Art, historical evidence shows no hearse was used to move Brigham Young's body. Rather, it was carried on a platform by clerks and employees. And honestly, that sounds way more accurate to me too.
Yeah.
Especially back in like pioneer days, yeah, it
Mhm.
was probably like it looked like a wooden tabletop with some
Yeah,
handles
that makes
sticking
sense.
out, and like 4 guys probably lifted it up by the handles, and yeah, that's exactly what I picture. But according to a 2001 report from 2 News, a man named Dill Rickards, like Richards but with a CK instead of a CH. He bought the hearse in 1973 from a Las Vegas collector who told him that the hearse had originally come from Salt Lake, and Brigham Young's descendants had confirmed with him that the hearse had carried the church leader.
Ah.
Rickards offered to sell it to the Mormon church, and they said, no thanks, not interested. So he sold it to Disney instead.
Oh my.
Yep. I thought that was
That's
quite
wild.
funny.
Yeah.
hmm So
Well, you know.
there's some Disney lore and legend for you.
Yeah. They really wanted the authenticity for their.
Oh yeah,
Props.
absolutely.
That's scary.
Yep. The more you know, though. You said it, Momo.
The more you know about Disney. The first time I go, I'll have all these thoughts that most people probably don't.
Oh no, I definitely had some of them. Like I was for sure a 12-year-old on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride looking for that real
George.
skeleton.
Oh my God.
I was like, which one's the real one?
I can tell.
Yeah, that was me. Because my grandparents took me when I was like in the 6th grade.
Yeah.
That was the only time I'd ever been to Disneyland.
Great. I'll be there like 33. I'm like, where's the real skull?
Yeah, it's the one by the captain's bed, Momo.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Help me out.
Oh,